So we're finally back with another BMW M140 video. It's been quite some time since we've done one. Not really had a chance to get any footage on the car. In today's video, though, as the title suggests, we're going to be doing a driving review. So that's going to be covering a couple of aspects, which will be the performance of the car, the handling, the braking, and also the comfort. Now, I did do a generic video in terms of all aspects after 4 months of ownership of the car. If you like to see that, the big car at the top corner of the screen where you can have a little look, and like I said, that's my opinions on having the car at 4 months and some of the other things like running costs. But this one's just going to be specifically in terms of how the car feels like to drive. So she's quite clean it last week, but I do tend to try and keep on top of it as much as I can. So what we'll do is we'll jump in the car now, take a little drive, and we'll go through a couple of those things. So it's Easter Sunday, so I'm hoping there's not going to be a lot of traffic on the road, so we can get a decent video without being stuck in traffic throughout it all. So first thing we're going to cover in the video is going to be the performance side and the power of the car. Now, for those of you who do know, these are in a 3-litre 6-cylinder engine. They're running around about 355 brake horsepower. Now that's what they say they run from factory, but I have seen examples of them from stock running around 340, to be fair. So it does fluctuate around the 335, 340 mark. In all fairness, the power is straight there. It's absolutely superb to drive. It's one of the main selling points of the M140s. As you can imagine, a 3-litre engine, which is a 3-litre 6 cylinders in basically what is a 1 series. It's a lot of power. So the power is always there. I tend to drive it around locally just in comfort mode, as I'm not trying to like burn all my fuel away. It is expensive to run. But she does respond. There's a massive difference in terms of response when you are in comfort compared to sport mode. When you sport plus, the revs are right there, and as soon as you put foot down, it just goes. In comfort though, it's not that far behind that. It's only like a split second, I would say. So it does pull really well just driving around in comfort if you just drive around local areas, things like that. If you are trying to do any overtaking sensibly, or like getting pit speed up for on slick roads, motorways, that kind of thing, it's just fantastic for it. The power is right there, but it does feel in a straight line that it's quite stable. There's a lot of things you can do with these engines. The V58 engine in these is quite a solid unit. There's a lot of potential for you to do upgrades in terms of the power. I think the stock engine itself, in terms of the main internals of it, you can get them running between 500-600 brake horsepower if that's something you're interested in actually doing. If you're not, then fair enough. For me, there's enough power as it is. Down there. It does sound like a great engine as well. Let's get a bit of sound there.
Yeah, I'm okay. I nearly dropped the camera. So that's how fast it is.
It does pick up really, really well. That's just in comfort mode. Now, with the sound of these, it does have double resonate on the exhaust, which I've mentioned on previous videos. Standard exhausts are they're not bad, but they are quite quiet, where this just gives it that little bit of something extra, so it does make it sound a lot better. There's no drone motorways or anything like that, so that is it's good. It's good. I love it. I love the sound of the car. Love the cold start with it. The performance is there if you need it. Like I said, there are upgrades you can do, but depending on how far you want to go. A lot of people tend to go stage 2 plus with these, but I know if you look on like Performance M's websites with the videos they've done, they're looking at stage 1 plus, where you're getting all the kind of upgrades. You're getting the remap panel filter and the upgrade to fuel pump, and you're pushing on nearly the same power as a stage 2 plus, but without having to actually buy a sports cat or decat it. So that is something to look at, and it's something they've been playing around with, experimenting on. This fuel station is extremely busy.
That is crazy. Oh my god.
Though, so I'm glad we filled up yesterday. So anyway, with the power being said, like I said, I cannot fault the power of these cars whatsoever. It's not the heaviest car in the world. They're quite small. The engine size is ridiculous. So the power is straight there.
It's very big.
It is. So in terms of the actual braking side of it, because if you're going to go, you need to stop.
Yeah.
Now, I know some people watched some of the previous videos, they have mentioned before, they have the same opinion as me of the brakes. Now, obviously the decent brakes for the size of the engine, the power it's got, but it's weird. It feels like you do obviously stop, but it feels like you have to apply a lot of pressure. So it doesn't. I know it's multiple times, if you are at speeds having to slow down quite quickly, you are applying a lot more pressure than you would do. It just doesn't feel quite right. And this has had new pads on it when I bought the car, so the pads on this, they're not exactly wearing down. They're about 2,000 miles on this. So there is multiple upgrades you can also do. In terms of the braking systems as well, which would be recommended, you can get upgraded brake lines, obviously do the brake fluid, discs, pads, that kind of thing. the amount of things you can do on these cars is just ridiculous. There's so many modifications and upgrades you can get if you are looking to go down that route. As a standard car though itself, like I say, the brakes do obviously work, they won't sell the car otherwise, but they do feel like they could be a little bit better. So the handling on these cars, it's one of the massive drawbacks that they do have, and everybody who knows and owns about these cars know it is a bit of a flaw, because you've got that much power on the front going to rear wheel drive with an open diff. It can be a recipe for disaster if you're not basically taking it particularly steady, or you're going at speed round bends or in wet conditions. Now you can get, oh, where's this guy going? Even though roads are quiet, there's still some idiots on road.
Yeah, what was this?
You can get some. You can get a new LSDs from limited slip diffs. You see them advertised. They are around about £1,600 though. That's the cheapest I've seen brand new. And obviously that's not fitting. That's just getting the part itself. But a lot of people do say they're massively beneficial because the back end does twitch out. Now myself, I do put the foot down now and again. I have had major problems. I have major problems with it, really.
Nah.
Now and again on a straight road, if you do notice that the road has got a bit of dips in it or it's a bit uneven, if one side of your back end doesn't get grip, it does start to squirrel out a little bit. So there's multiple things you can do with them. If you are looking to do some upgrades with suspension, your handling, that kind of thing, just to make it feel a little bit more planted, a bit more safer, there's multiple options you can do. There is options to kind of resolve that situation. So one other thing I want to mention as well is when we're on about the engine of the car, the B58. A lot of people do try and compare it with the M135s, the F20, F21 versions. Now, a lot of people compare which engine's better. Now, there's a lot more known problems on the M55 engine than there is on the B58, but the B58 hasn't been around as long, but it does have its own problems as well, to be honest with you. Now, also people also say that the M55 sound better, but it's just a matter of opinion. These engines aren't particularly bulletproof. There can be problems with components around, so to speak. Now, I have a problem myself with having a low coolant, which seems to be a common problem with the coolant caps. There will be a card at the top of the screen anyway if you want to have a look back at that video when I talk about that in more detail. So, last thing we're going to cover in this video, it's not a particularly long one, just some basics of the driving, is the actual comfort itself. Now, I've done multiple long journeys on motorway, and it is comfortable. It is a comfortable car. If you're on a smooth road, the seats, it's not the best interiors, but it is quite comfortable. A roads, motorway is fine. Now, if you get any B roads or any country roads, it's in my opinion, it's horrendous. It's not.
It just bounces everywhere, doesn't it?
It's very, very bouncy. Now, it does have adaptive suspension in this. You can tell the difference when you do change to your sport mode. It does tighten everything up, which is good for that side of things. But in terms of the actual comfort of the car, even in comfort mode, which you think it would be comfortable, it's not really. It does bounce about a little bit. Uneven roads are just absolutely terrible with it. So that is one of the downsides of me. It doesn't put me off the car whatsoever. It's just something you kind of live with.
It's got to deal with, haven't you, with this type of car?
But if you do go on that kind of road, you will tell the difference straight away of being on that road compared to a normal smooth road. All in all, with the car, absolutely love it. See, she's getting loud again now. It's just accelerate ridiculously. You're holding on.
Yeah. Didn't lose the camera this time.
Yeah. It is an extremely fun car to drive. I absolutely adore the car. Yeah, it does have its flaws, but as long as you learn with it, you manage it well, you can drive it and handle it quite well. If the roads are really wet, or to be fair, if there's been snow and ice, I took the car out of the garage, it stays there. When it's been raining, obviously I'm going to use the car, but you just got to be sensible with it. You got to,
in my opinion, I think you've just got to be a good driver and sensible driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can have fun in the cars. I have a lot of fun in this car. It makes me smile every single time. It's a really, really lovely car to drive. It does feel nice in the corners and roundabouts, things like that, as long as you're not absolutely planting it, because then it's going to be a recipe for disaster, unless you do some of the multiple upgrades. But I have seen, to be honest with you, some cars having all the suspension, the handling, all that kind of side upgrades, and they've still been quite twitchy, but that's when people start upgrading the power as well. So there will be more videos coming up on the M140. We have got coming up in a couple of months' time, it will be the first service and MOT, and that's where we'll go through all the costs of the annual running costs and that at that point. If there's any other kind of videos you want to see in terms of the M140, do let me know in the comments below. Also let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. If you own one of these, what you think about the actual driving side specifically with it. If you think the power could be better, just let's talk about its stock and how you feel like it is stock. And if you have problems with it being stock and you've had to do some upgrades, what upgrades have you done and what the kind of costs of those were as well. If you haven't got one of these and thinking about buying one of these, if you've got any questions, do put them in the comments below and we'll see if we can help with that. So thank you very much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed. Please give it a like and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you on the next one.